let's go ahead and take a look at some of those way too early best ball drafts. So we already have ADP getting started here as drafts are starting to commence. We got some data here. You can also check out the underdog ADP over on rotowire.com/football. Go to the cheat sheets,
That is
underdog best
helpful,
ball.
by the way. I had trouble finding that before, so it's good to have that now.
Yes, that's huge. And we have some of Underdog's data as it stands as it's coming in. You go ahead and sort by ADP, and bada bing, bada boom, you're there. So let's take a look at some of the running backs who might be a little bit overvalued going into next year, at least right now. I wanted to start things off with Kenneth Walker. Do you feel like he is maybe coming in a little bit too high? We're talking about a top 20 pick for him. His ADP right now, 19.6 over on Underdog. Are you buying or selling that?
So, for what it's worth, that appears to be him going after Josh Jacobs, but before Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, DeAndre Swift. So, I definitely like him. I don't know. I don't want to count out Cook or Kamara, especially, but I do think there's a bit of a drop off there to 12. Certainly, Dameon Pierce, and I don't know what I think about ETN at 13 yet. I love the player, certainly. I have some concerns. I'll probably get over it. I'll probably have ETN more around where Walker is. So yeah, I think I have no problem with Walker. I don't want to lock myself into him being like a primary target there, but the player is good. I know we're probably going to see uh, some doubt around him. The one thing to keep in mind, I guess, is they might re-sign Rashad Penny. I guess I should think about that. I don't think they're going to sign anyone other than Rashad Penny among notable free agents, but they might re-sign him because he's probably going to be cheap and he might take less money yet than other teams just for kind of like the convenience of not having to move
Yeah,
basically and
that
sticking
that
with.
would be a big driving factor for me.
Yeah, if Penny's back, I actually would have to be totally against Walker at that price. Like, I know team politics at this point might dictate that Penny not get a real starting shot. I'm not saying Penny just takes the starting job, but A, he could, and B, if they do open it up to any sort of actual competition, then Walker is in a lot of trouble. Not for his personal career. He's going to have a great career either way, but as a second round type pick in fantasy. Um, Penny can't be there for Walker because there's still a lot of evidence that Penny is the more effective player, just the less durable of the two.
Right. So yeah, durability. So free agency could really kind of steer the Walker ADP one way or the other, and yeah, at this stage, like if the going rate right now is a mid to late second round selection on him, I feel like that you're just kind of giving yourself almost no room for profit.
That's
Uh,
true because
so
his
that
price isn't going to go up if Penny doesn't resign.
Yeah, exactly. So it's yeah, he's a tricky one. And then you mentioned that Jacobs is the running back going ahead of him. Do you think that sounds about right as far as his ADP is concerned? A mid to late second round type of guy coming off the year that he is.
I bet we'll see that get higher. I bet he's going to start going sooner than that. Don't know how high I expect, but uh, a few of these running backs, I think, are going to creep up a little bit, like him included, Jonathan Taylor and Barkley maybe included. Like right now, they're behind. It appears, yeah, Austin Eckler. So and more specifically, like by a bit, like looks like so. For instance, like Taylor's going 6 spots later than Eckler, as is Barkley. So I think those two running backs go up, and then they're probably going to not pull Jacobs up too. Like I think Jacobs would go a little sooner either way, but uh, I don't know what to make of Jacobs because it would seem simple enough to say like the the Raiders are going to franchise him, and maybe he wants to leave, but maybe he won't be able to. I would say while Josh Jacobs might personally, in his own life, hope to get away from the Raiders, fantasy investors should hope that his personal hell endures and that he is trapped with the Raiders, and that because it really seems like something about Devontae Adams getting there really opened up something like that. It just the way everything else McDaniels did, of course, was terrible, but the way McDaniels used Adams seemed to make it almost impossible for defenses to also attend to the gaps that Jacobs could run through. Because I like Jacobs. I don't think he's bad, or I think he's good. But he's not quite as good as last year's numbers, and something changed, and it wasn't him. So if that thing that changed is negotiable to turn for the worse, or get taken away or whatever, then I definitely worry about having overpaid for Jacobs in 2023. I can't assume returns like last year, because returns like last year would dictate the first overall pick, obviously. So I
Hmm.
don't. I'm obviously his current ADP doesn't quite put that much pressure on him, but I need to be prepared for the possibility that he's more like the player he was before this year, which is a totally solid running back too.
Right. So yeah, he was more like a mid to late fourth, early fifth type of guy. So obviously league winning type of performance from him this past year, but we can't quite expect it to go quite that well again. And we don't know what their quarterback situation is going to look like either. So that all of a sudden that Devonte Adams factor might mean slightly less if they have some kind of scrubby
That's
quarterback
true.
or a Jared Stidham type of thing.
Jarrett Stidham would do it. Yeah, that'd be bad.
Yeah, everyone will point to that one game and like soy face it, but
They
I'm
said
willing
he
to
couldn't do
bet
it. They
against.
said he couldn't throw. They said he couldn't turn it over 3 times in a game.
And you know what? I'm willing to double down on that one. Your thoughts on Brees Hall checking in right at that 2-3 turn? He tore his ACL, obviously, in week 7. So that's later on in the season than say J.K. Dobbins did a year ago when he tore it in that final preseason game. And Dobbins didn't really start to look like himself until the later half of the season, and obviously wasn't even active for those first few weeks of the year. So is that a little bit too much optimism right now on Hall?
Yeah, and particularly with I think some of these other running backs are clearly underpriced. Of course, I mentioned Taylor, Barkley before, but to have I love Brees Hall. I think he's a better player, better prospect than Jacobs, clearly when healthy. But given his ACL situation, it's insane to me that 23.1 would be Jacobs and 23.2 would be Hall. Chubb 25.8, ETN 28.7. I don't think you should be taking Hall ahead of any of those guys, and I probably could find more names yet, but it probably would be a pretty inclusive list.
Yeah. Again, it's just that the names going around him. Like I think that again, you're just kind of not really factoring the risk if you're spending a late second round pick on Brees Hall when there's a chance that he opens the season on pup. That there's promising reports thus far, but it's always promising. Early on in a player's recovery when there's no risk to saying like, oh, he's ahead of schedule. It's like, well, it's not going to matter until training camp
And a
anyway.
few of those guys, I don't know if he's ahead of them when fully healthy, and they don't have ACL tears. So
See, so that there we have it as far as Hall goes. So a little bit skeptical on him. I'd be willing, mid to late third round, obviously, but uh, as it currently stands, I don't know if I'm getting in too much Brees Hall shares as a late second type of pick. Your thoughts on Ramondre Stevenson? He's going. Looks like his ADP is 31.9. So, a mid third round type of selection. Obviously, the Patriots invested at the running back position that this past draft. Neither of those guys really did a whole lot. We both like them maybe a little bit in the long term. Did they start to eat into Stevenson's production a little bit? Stevenson had such a strong year. I don't think anyone expected him to catch almost 70 passes the way that he did. So does that tide come back in a little bit when it comes to Stevenson as far as the passing game production?
Stevenson's a tough one for me. I think it was very recently the case that people were way too high on him. Not so much for ADP reasons. Like I thought, with his usage, getting whatever 20 carries and 5 catches a game, like obviously that's a first round workload. So um, I don't need to convince myself that he's as good as the average person thinks he is to still like him at a price much higher than this. Uh, I don't know what to make of the Damian Harris part. I do really believe that Damian Harris being hurt had something to do with why Stevenson had quite as much carries, especially as he did. But I don't know that they're going to re-sign Harris. Harris could go anywhere else. I don't know why he would stay with the Patriots when they've all but indicated he's not eligible to start there. He
Hmm.
can probably start in the NFL. He already did and had 15 touchdowns and like 200 carries for the Patriots. So he's overqualified to be somebody's just third down carry specialist, like rotational carry specialist. So if Harris leaves, uh, if Damian Harris leaves, I don't think Kevin Harris is going to take a workload similar to what Damian Harris did, not for a couple years anyway, or not until 2024. Anyway, I do think Kevin Harris is a real deal and will be able to step up to be the backup, but I just don't think he's like even if he gets to be as good as Damian Harris someday, I don't think it'll be like at least a year. I think so. Pierre Strong, he's just a rotational guy probably. So I think Stevenson could settle in as a guy who gets like 20 carries and 3 to 4. I think the catch count comes down. By the way, I think the target count comes down. The target rate, maybe I should say instead. That was a dysfunctional offense. Like a lot of those
Right.
targets that he was getting were just because the Patriots couldn't throw the ball. And if you pay attention in the last like month or 6 weeks or whatever it was, Stevenson's returns as a pass catcher completely disappeared. Like defenses started sitting on his routes, and he got nothing. So
Mm.
he's not anywhere. People might look at his stats as a pass catcher and be like, "Wow, only like 5 guys ever caught this many passes at running backs." Like, well, probably like 80 could have if they played in this offense.
Yeah, and the Patriots, for you tell that to them, and they're probably going to be like, well, we don't really want a repeat of that. Yeah, over his final 6 games, 3.3 yards per reception in that span.
What you really want to find an ugly number. It's the catch rate multiplied by the yards per target in that stretch. Because I feel like he was doing like 1 yard a target kind of stuff.
Yep, 30 targets, 62 receiving yards over those final 6 games, and catching also 19 of those 30, which is
Oh, that's bad.
not
That's
enough
bad. That's
for a
like
running
that's
back.
that's negative war for sure.
See, exactly. So currently, I think there's reasons to be skeptical of Stevenson at his current ADP as well. And yeah, again,
Well,
that offense
I
was
just
broken.
I'm only
Go on.
skeptical if he's going like in the top 12 or something like that. I think Stevenson can largely be what people wanted like Najee Harris to be, like a guy who just gets tons of catches and carries even if he's not explosive.
Okay. All right. So all right, that definitely checks out. Um, yeah, again,
But you'll
ADP
see you'll see these
31.9.
hype. Sorry, I keep interrupting. Actually, you'll see these like these Twitter people like posting like hype clips to get retweeted. And Ramondre Stevenson is such a freaking beast. Look at this. It's like he's not that good. He's plenty good, but his main utility is the volume that he can withstand as a 230-pound back who's a really good pass catcher. He's not explosive. That career yards per carry is going to settle in that 4.0 kind of range, and that's fine. But it's a volume driven sort of production. He's not some kind of He's not like a game breaker. He's more just like a good running back.
There we go. There we have it. So bear all of that in mind for your underdog best ball drafts. And again, sign up over at Underdog using that promo code RWNFL. Get that first deposit doubled up to $100. Get your 6-month subscription to RotoWire and profit.